Bienvenidos and welcome to all the residents of Tristram. Today we're going to be creating the rogue from the Diablo series, primarily Diablo 1. And I'm going to start from beginning and go to the end, so if you're hoping for a short video, this is not going to be it. This is going to be a complete walkthrough. It is not going to be like a speed sculpt or anything like that. This is truly going to be from beginning to end, and I will cut some parts that are boring or unnecessary, but we're really going to go from beginning to end. So I also want to take a quick note before I get started that I will be importing a leather texture that I've edited in Photoshop, but that is not at all necessary, and I don't even intend to keep it. It is just for a reference, so everything that you're going to see in this can be done in VRoid from beginning to end without any outside software or textures. With that said, let's get right into it. So I am starting with the base female, and she is wearing the uniform long sleeve vest and a pencil skirt. And I'm just going to kind of add a new layer and draw in brown where the clothing of the rogue is. And I'm basing this completely on just the pixel art from Diablo 1 and the rogues, which are like side characters in Diablo 2. So no concept art or fan art, I'm literally just going off the pixel art from the games. And I'm doing that partially to avoid influence from outside sources, and it keeps things open to interpretation a little better on my part as I create this really from scratch. So I'm just doing what would, I guess, be considered the gauntlets. I'm utilizing the sleeves and just drawing over those with the brown color, like I said, on a new layer, and gonna go over the chest area and pretty much the whole shirt as well. Because it's blue, obviously it's going to come up a darker color with the brown going over it, so I'll have to adjust that later. But right now I'm just kind of trying to draw it out as it is in the game. So there's shoulder pads, there's kind of a chest plate that covers the body but not the upper chest where the collarbones are. There's just kind of some strings there, so that's going to be mostly uncovered. And then I chose the skirt because that's going to be kind of the dangly loincloth type of covering, which is kind of very versatile if you're going to be creating things that are long dangly bits, long skirts, things like that. So that's why it's a nice piece, and it's easy to just delete out any fabric you don't want. I always delete from the default image if there's pieces I don't want, and then can just change things later or draw on new layers if I need to. So that's probably not perfect, but pretty close to what we want, again just based on the pixel art. So same idea, I'm drawing over it with the brown now. I did draw over a little bit, so I'm going to have to clean it up on the edges there. And I'm using the multiply tool so I can kind of see what it would look like if I kept the fabric design. So you can see there's the little wrinkles and shading from the default image of the skirt as well as on the sleeves from the vest part. And that's not something I'm going to keep in the long run. I am going to kind of use that as a reference when I get to the shading at the very, very end. But that's not really going to mesh well with the overall final product. So, as I said before, just kind of filling in with the brown the pieces that I'm going to keep, and then I will be erasing the rest of it. So clear that out, clear that out. And it doesn't have to be totally perfect with this run, this go through, but I do want it to be mostly accurate, and that'll save me some tweaking when I get kind of toward the end of this whole project here. I'm going to go ahead and kind of do the boots next, so I'm doing that on the body layer, and of course I'm doing a separate layer from the default image, drawing kind of where the boots are, which they actually go above the knees in Diablo, so bringing that just up above the knees. Also got to do the feet, and I'm going to take off the shoes because I want to have a kind of seamless boot look, so I'm just gonna hide all of that so that's all seamless on the feet. And we're just gonna fill in all these little dark spots that I missed because couldn't see through the shoes. I am also gonna color on the undergarments in the same color, just to kind of hide any weird angles. I mean, I don't mind a little bit of white, but I kind of want it to blend in because I'm not sure how I'm going to pose this character. I'm really making this just for use with video thumbnails, so it's probably not going to be used in anything where it's going to be seen in detail, but I just want to cover all the bases as I'm going through it. Again, just because I don't know what angles I'm going to use. So, being the rogue, I like that kind of Amazon look, so I'm going to make her just a little bit tall, a little bit slim, and I might bring the arms in just a little bit, but it would be nice if in the future we got some kind of like build options so we could have more muscular ladies and gentlemen. I'm just kind of tweaking to really get somewhat of a strong look, and again somewhat of a kind of a taller look, so pretty good. Again, for the purposes of making this for thumbnails and pictures, I'm going to take off pretty much all of the shading. I'm really going to just cut all that down, and I'm going to kind of hand draw in some of the shading. I know there's a lot of people out there who just don't like the shading and light options in VRoid, and I partially agree with that. I think they're fine. I don't think they're the best that they could be, but I think they're fine. So here, I got to get rid of this blue. It's obviously becoming a problem at this point, so just drawing it real quick, just drawing white over where the blue is, and I should probably mirror that because that would make sense, save me a little bit of work. And we're going to get the shoulder pads. And I don't mind that there's, you know, a little bit of dark blue on the edges because it's going to kind of help accent everything once I'm kind of doing the shading. I do need to correct these little ugly bits there, but also make sure you're on the right layer because that's important. I absolutely wasn't on the right layer, so back and fix that. There we go. And not 100% sure on how I'm going to do the belt, but it's a really simple belt in the game. It's just a black line with like a white buckle. And again, I'm just kind of going off the pixel art. It's hard to truly understand what's supposed to be what sometimes with pixel art, and you gotta kind of just interpret on your own. Thought I was gonna do kind of a dark outline here, but it's not gonna work. I'm gonna have to just do kind of a shaded color and not keep it so dark. Obviously filling in any of the white that's really outstanding. Clean up those little bits. And I don't see anything that's too garish, so I think we're good. So let's put that belt back on. So we've got that black belt, and I'm just gonna do a really basic kind of buckle, nothing too crazy, and I don't think anyone's even gonna focus on the belt once I have this exported as an image and kind of set it up as I need it. So we have kind of the rough idea of the rogue's armor at this point. It's not perfect, it's, you know, probably not accurate to what the developers wanted originally, but it's good enough for my purposes. I'm gonna do a really, really crude ponytail here. It's not up to par with what I would usually like to do, but I don't think anyone's even going to notice the ponytail. I'm really just kind of doing it because that's what the character in the game appears to have. It's a very short ponytail. So I am just doing a very crude version of the ponytail. Really trying to keep with the two colors of brown and black. As I said, not that really anyone's even going to notice or be paying attention to this, but still want to keep with the color scheme just in case. So it looks kind of like she's got bangs, but also kind of a swept look. So I'm going to keep that swept look and almost have kind of an off-center part. And then I'm just going to bulk up the sides once I get the bangs in place. So it's going to be sweepy in the front, it's going to be a little messy on the top. Because, you know, she's out there adventuring. So it's not going to be perfectly flawless hair. And I'll probably do a procedural group to just fill in the back and keep it simple, because I don't want to put too much work into this model if it's just going to be used for thumbnails probably, and I don't expect I'll probably do anything 3D with it. So I got that mess going on the top like I was talking about. So she's got the nice sweepy bangs. It's got kind of messy top. And then I'll be filling in the back with a procedural group just to fill it in. Get that procedural group in there. We're gonna just the highlights a little bit. We're gonna definitely lower the height because she's got fairly short hair. And let's get that on the back. So right away, I mean, it's not terrible, just even as it is right there, but got to fill in the gaps a little bit. So I'm gonna kind of spread it out a little bit. But hey, even right there, that's not bad. That's pretty good. So I'm going to adjust it a little bit. Just kind of keep it more in line with her smaller face. And I don't want to be puffing out too much, but I still want to cover like the initial scalp. The base hair is what VRoid calls it. So not terrible. Especially, you know, if it's not going to be seen like 360, it's just going to be a still image. I can obviously tweak it as I need to. So let's bring that in just a little bit. It's pretty good. I don't like these hairs on the side that are kind of just... They probably would have been fine if I didn't add the procedural group, but now that the procedural group's there, these are just a little too long and unnecessarily long, I guess is the proper way to phrase it. And I hate when VRoid puts two dots, like two adjustment points right on top of each other, and I always seem to grab the wrong one. Like every time, I always seem to grab the wrong one. I don't know why. I don't know. That's just how my luck is. Gotta really screw it up, and then I can adjust it correctly. So I think that's fine. I think it's fine. I think ponytail needs to be bowed out just a little more because it's kind of blending in the back now. But there we go. Yeah, so I think that's fine. I think if you were looking at that from the front and side, I think that would be adequate. Pull out those highlights because to kind of better match with the armor, keep everything kind of softer looking. So pull the highlights out of that. Anytime you want to remove highlights, you just set it to black and you essentially remove your highlights. So that's just a quick tip for you. Eyes are not bad as they are, again, just for my purposes, but I'm gonna just throw some brown over there. And let's see. That's pretty good. Just throw a multiply on there. Yeah, I'm not going to be too picky about the eyes. Just to get this model done. So here, I'm going to go ahead and name these layers just so I don't mix them up as I'm going through. And I don't think this is the best option, but if you want to import a texture, again, this I edited in Photoshop to match up with where the brown layers are, and it's fine. It's not something I'm going to keep, but if you're doing something similar and you think that adding a texture is going to be good for your design, then absolutely go for it. Once I get to the shading and highlights, this isn't really going to be enhancing the model in any way, so it's not going to be something I'm going to keep. So there's the whole thing with the leather texture on it. Again, I think it's fine. I don't think it's what I'm looking for with this. So I'm going to hand draw the shaded bits. So I'm going to do that all by hand in VRoid. So here I don't want the sleeves to show those wrinkles. I do want it to look more like a gauntlet, and less just like cut off sleeves. So I'm just gonna white that all out, and I know it's gonna look pretty ugly right this moment, but I'm gonna start adding some shading and some highlights across the whole thing, and it's not gonna be perfect. This isn't, you know, gonna be like my masterpiece, because it's just gonna be used for still images, and I have the luxury of being able to edit this, edit the final images once I'm done. One thing to note with females, and especially with like armor, is you do want to have some shading just under the chest, and you may want to add some highlights on the top of the chest. I notice some people kind of neglect that, and so you just kind of have like a big blob of the same color on the chest, and it doesn't emphasize that, women have curves, and that's kind of part of the art. So I'm also kind of going around the edges of all the armor as I'm adding highlights and shading. And you also want to add any highlights where things not only would get hit by the light more, but also where they might be worn, in the sense of being worn out a little more. So where the armor might get bumped kind of on the sides, maybe from the arms rubbing on it, top of the gauntlets, as if things had been deflected on there or rubbed against there. So again, not just where light's going to hit, but also where the armor will be kind of worn out. And going back to what I was saying before, I really like the look without the leather, so I'm just renaming those layers so I can identify them and just take the leather out, to be honest with you. I'm kind of liking this. I don't want to call it cell shaded, but it's a similar method to cell shading. So just focusing on the highlights and the shadows primarily. Similar to the chest, don't forget to add some shadows under the knees and on the insides of the ankles. And then top of the feet are going to get highlights, because again, that's where the light is going to hit, as well as the outside of the legs more than the inside of the legs. And then on top of the knees, if you want to add a little highlight, you can. It's not going to be quite the same as on the chest, for example. So here, I can't really decide if I want to have like a top of the boot. Definitely not quite like that, so just kind of bring it around just to give it a finite top. So shading on the inside of the calf, and just slight slight little highlight on where the calf bumps out, because again, that's where the light's going to hit. As I said before, mine's not going to be flawless. It's just for still images, so this is going to be a little uglier and a little messier than if I was going to do like a real finalized product, a 3D model, for example. This is something you can do, you know, in one sitting potentially, in less than a day. Total time on this is probably hour to 2 hours. I know I have this condensed to much less than an hour just for your viewing pleasure, but that's really, I mean, total time is probably an hour to 2 hours, and that's just to get something this crude, for a lack of a better word. So, just because that's kind of a flowy cloth, it's going to have various levels of shading and highlights. So if you need a reference, you can always just look at a piece of cloth. You can literally just, you know, look down at your clothing that you're wearing and see how the folds and wrinkles catch the light, and kind of just reference that. So not too terrible for just kind of throwing this together, referencing pixel art. And I do think, yeah, she needs to be just a little taller, a little more leggy. And almost got those, almost got Tomb Raider vibes going. I could probably tweak this and do a Lara Croft version of this. So, the belt's a little too contrasty for me. 100% on what I want out of that, and that's my own fault just because I just drew it so crudely with, you know, black and white essentially. So that is on me. The other thing I'm not liking, as I'm kind of reaching the end here, is I don't like the folds in the fabric here, so they're gonna have to go, and that's more of a choice, again, based because this is going to be a still image once I'm done, so I can mask that. It's not going to look just like a hole in the clothing necessarily, but from the front perspective, it brings in the hips, the waist there, so it's not just like a flappy fold, because the armor wouldn't necessarily have that. So I think that looks much better, even though it's just kind of a hole, just erasing that layer. So that's how it looks. And if you want to have the leather texture back, I'll just show you what that looks like real quick. So that would be with the leather texture on, if that's something you so choose to keep. But again, I kind of like this cell shaded kind of look, although again, it's not true cell shading. So I would say that's my final product. So that's all for now. I hope that was informative for you. If you thought it was, give me a thumbs up. If you thought that was absolutely terrible, give me a thumbs down and hit me with a comment on what you think I can do to improve this for the next tutorial. I will catch you all next time. See ya!